Welcome to Davis Community Television. My name is Darrick, and this is In the Studio. Tonight, our subject is the Linux user groups of Davis, and I'm here with a number of members of that group, as well as presidents and vice presidents and co-founders. So tonight, I have Bill Kendrick, who's both the president and co-founder. I have John Reed, a member of the group. Brian Lavender, the vice president of the group. And Eric Engelhard. Engelhard. Excuse me. So, but anyway, to get going...
He's our vice president. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
He's ex-vice president.
So John Reed is the vice president. So to get started, Bill, could you explain a little bit about what the Linux user group of Davis is?
Sure. So our club is basically a computer club that meets on a regular basis. And kind of the meat of the club sandwich is having guest speakers come in and talk about various topics, both technical and non-technical. So we've had people from Google and Hewlett-Packard and IBM, and we've had members from our own club come and talk about things. We've seen programming languages and 3D printers and graphics and all sorts of different topics, wide range. So.
And how long has the group been going for?
So it was founded in the beginning of 1999, so 15 years.
Wow. So you'll be celebrating the 15th-year anniversary.
Yeah. Gonna have a big party with pizza and cake and all the typical stuff. So.
All right. So John, what's your reason for getting involved with the group?
Yeah, I'm actually fairly recent to the group. I moved back to Davis about 6 months ago, and I just started Googling around for tech user groups, and this was the one I found with. And my favorite part is the where we communicate through Internet Relay Chat, which is the old-style chat room before there were web browsers or anything like that. So we're using that sort of old protocol to communicate daily. We just hang out, we talk about Linux, ask questions, make friends, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure that IRC was still that old.
Oh yeah.
But still pretty well used, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heavily, yeah.
So anyway, Brian, explain to me why you like the group.
Well, let's see. I'm one of the members. I've been with the group since its start. Well, I guess I came to maybe the second or third meeting. I actually live in Sacramento and actually founded SacLug, but we used to have a rivalry between SacLug and LUGOD. And but now we've sort of what do you call it? I don't know. You could say consolidated. But so for a while there, I was vice president of the group, and just I don't know, love for hacking on things in the sense of building things, and so there's always been a strong dynamic with LUGOD. So,
is there like more users in Sacramento or Davis, or I mean, saying that they probably like cross-met, but I mean, it's like Sacramento have a bigger group or Davis a bigger group because of the university, or?
I think Davis has a bigger group. I think the causeway keeps people from that is the joke. I think we've been lucky enough. Maybe we're close enough to the Bay Area that we've been able to get more of the guest speakers out because we're not 2 hours away. We're only an hour and a half away from San Jose or whatever. So I don't know.
Bill he's always good at recruiting speakers.
So how does that happen? I mean,
just
have good connections.
Notice something on Twitter, have a friend on Facebook, go to a conference and just hand out business cards to everybody I can, and just kind of try to fill up the calendar with potential guest speakers. And
they're usually pretty good about it. It's like they don't ask for speaker fees or.
Oh yeah, no, they know what a computer club's about. There's no. Yeah.
Right. So Eric, why do you like the group?
I joined in the beginning of 2000. I had been living and working as a biologist in Switzerland. My father called me one day and said, "Hey, I know you're using Unix systems when you went to school, but there's this thing called Linux." I made my first install on an old Dell laptop with Slackware, a stack of disks that my dad had sent me, and I fell in love with it. I was actually using it immediately to do sequence analysis, and then I came here and I found out that there was a club that was meeting at that time 2 blocks from my house at Lamppost Pizza, and was a pretty active member for about 6 years, and then it waned. I was commuting a lot and traveling a lot for my work, and I came back. But I mean, I love Linux. Run it all over the house. My kids all work on. We have no other operating systems in the house. We probably have at least 10 devices, laptops, workstations, Raspberry Pis, network attached storage devices. That's all I can think of at the moment. But phones. It's everywhere, and you know, my kids. I throw down challenges like you have to decrypt the web in order to get access, and they're learning, and now they're on Raspberry Pis and learning Python. So it's a great set of tools and a great environment and a great community.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, earlier I was talking about with you all about my use of Linux here, and talking about going over to FreeBSD and all of that, and I kind of stood out Tennessee and all that. So I'm just a little bit curious. You know, I mean, I know that there's, you know, it's called the Linux Users Group of Davis, so of course you're very focused on Linux. But I mean, like, overall, just on a meeting-to-meeting basis, and given who comes there, I mean, how much would you say is kind of given more toward maybe open source issues, or more toward, you know, I mean, unless it's just being the operating system and
yeah,
that.
I've always tried to make sure there's a mix, so we can have, you know, just people off the street come into the club and learn things. Software that runs on Windows, for example, as well, like GIMP graphic software, and not necessarily specific to Linux, but obviously that's kind of like the central theme that kind of binds it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a guy talk about the fourth computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any programming language or you know, application that's cross-platform is basically, you know, is going to be of interest to people beyond Linux users. So.
Yeah. So I'm just, you know, I mean, another aspect is like, I mean, if you look at like the hacker spaces or the maker labs and all of that, I mean, how do you feel that you've kind of tied into some of that's been coming up, or, you know?
I've definitely recognized some of the people, LUGOD people being involved in, for example, Davis Makerspace, and we actually had them come out and do a presentation on 3D printing recently. So yeah, there's, and you know, you step in the place and you're like, well, there's a Linux powered thing over here and there's a Linux powered thing over there, and the door uses Linux probably. Maybe it's Arduino, but it's, you know, it's all very open as well. So.
But do you think, like, I mean, as far as like kind of I just feel like, I mean, when I kind of started with Linux, because I started in like literally, you know, in the mid-90s or so, and I mean, just going, you know, I mean, my feeling or my desire for it was, one, I mean, I didn't have a lot of money, so you could, like, wow, you can have a compiler, you can program, you can do all this stuff, and plus you can kind of learn how to, you know, program software, because there's all this existing software to look at, and things to go along like that. And also, but as well as, I mean, I kind of came with a more of a political standpoint of like the freedom of information sort of thing, and feeling that, like, I mean, wow, this can really, well, I mean, I was young and impressionable then, so very idealistic about it, you know, and just saying, oh wow, this can really change the world and all of this. And I'm feeling that, like, I don't know, maybe some of you kind of have a similar philosophy behind it, or but I'm not saying, I'm just curious about how you feel like maybe some of the earlier philosophies or politics of the open source software moment and what Linux was doing, especially as the internet was kind of expanding and exploding, and where things are at kind of now with the mobile phones, the app development, and kind of the newer generation that has always had this.
I think it's moved to where we kind of hoped it would. We were telling people, you know, we would be at the Davis Food Co-op, like in the demo kitchen, showing people, here's Linux, and they're like, what? Well, it's an operating system, and you have to explain what an operating system is to them as well. And basically, you'd boil down to, this is an alternative to something commercial and proprietary. This is more open and accessible, and you can run it on old hardware, and you can run it for free, and you can change it if you need to, and all the other great things that are kind of the key points of open source. And you know, we're thinking, like, eventually, like, devices everywhere can have it. You know, of course, you know, they do. And Eric was talking about his children using like Raspberry Pis and using Linux workstations. My sons have little Leapfrog, Leapster video game systems and a tablet, and internally they run Linux. You know, you wouldn't know it as a consumer; you just go buy it. But this kind of like this underground thing has happened. And back in the day, we're saying this is good. This is going to be something that everyone should use everywhere. And all of a sudden, all the companies are kind of picking it up, and more people are using it. So.
I want to add, I think I could, just based upon your same experience, or I had similar experience. 15 years ago, I won my own Unix server, and you know, if I went out and bought it, it would have cost maybe $1,000. Yeah, you know, and then I got Linux. Someone showed me Linux, and I thought at first it was a toy, and I started using it. And at first, I wanted my own web server, and then when I found it was like there's the different things I wanted to do that they were complex, and so then that's when I started getting involved with other users, and then you know we could solve those problems collectively, but once you figure it out, you own it. You know, it's like you can carry that on. You know, the same things I figured out 15 years ago I can still use. It's like it hasn't been like deprecated. You know, it's like Windows 95, you're probably not going to be able to run that today unless it's on some old piece of hardware. But the same programs that we ran 15 years ago on our free software, we can still run today, and we can still adapt them.
Yeah. And for your average user, it's no longer complex anymore. You stick the disk in and you hit next, and it's up and running within a few minutes.
Yeah, our club used to have regular, what was called Install Fest workshops, and that's where we would gather a bunch of people, volunteers together, and tell the community, bring your computers in, you know, lug your giant monitor in your computer, bring your laptop in, and we'll help you install Linux on it and get it configured and working. And now we don't really have any, there's no demand for that. People they just go do it.
Then came Ubuntu.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
I think what you see though today is that before, like, it was a challenge to get Linux installed. Now you see like a lot of the energy is going into like these like Drupal user groups or Ruby on Rails user groups, or like the Android development. You know, they're all working with free software, and they want to build something. You know, there's a target to build something, to do something, and you know, you could be the next big thing.
Yeah, so the capabilities. I mean, it lowered the bar to enter as a developer. All the free development tools that are available. It also lowered the bar significantly to scale, because you removed licensing fees, and so you had people building clusters, you know, and doing work that would have been quite expensive to create a data center. You know, only 5 years before, suddenly you know, instead of using Oracle and paying high licensing fees, you're using Postgres or MySQL on the back end, and you've got hardware that's not so expensive and no licensing fees. So it's really enabling I think a pretty long gradient from a new user all the way to somebody with a very specific technical need to produce. And then you have commercial services that built around it, Amazon CC2, where because you don't have to pay licensing fees, all of a sudden they offer a service and they have highly capable systems.
Yeah, so to a little bit go off on a different subject, John, wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite presentations you've seen at LUGOD, or some of your favorite meetings?
We had one recently, which was one laptop per child. I mean, I've heard of that before, and I looked at it a couple times, but just watching the guy speak, and he showed up with the device that he had, which they give to nations, impoverished nations, children, and it's this rugged little laptop. You can drop it, you can smash it. It works in the daytime because a lot of these schools aren't even indoors. So this special laptop that they made, using Linux, of course, and it was just an incredible presentation. I got a lot out of that. The 3D printing one was also, 3D printing is all the rage right now. So it was great to have somebody come along and show us that too.
And Brian, what are some of your high points of the?
Oh goodness. Let's see, I've given several homegrown presentations, or my own. I don't know, I'm trying to think of, it's funny because I could definitely relate to what John was saying here about the one laptop per child. And so I definitely think that's like a great project. Definitely looking forward to our Gluster FS presentation. So this is actually a project that I worked with the guys. We built a supercomputer cluster for Lawrence Livermore, and afterwards they started this company, Gluster, and they're going to be at our anniversary meeting. So I think that's definitely going to be a great meeting. So, but I don't know. It's hard to think of past meetings. Sorry, I had to give a plug for our upcoming meeting.
That's good.
I'm not going to
We're fine with plugs.
But yeah, I don't know, because I always think of my own presentations as being the good ones, you know? Maybe I'm just a little bit self-centered. So,
Eric, anything, any high points you could think of?
I think one of the things I mentioned earlier, one of the meetings that really stood out was when the author of PHP, what was his name?
Rasmus
Lerdorf,
yeah.
gave a presentation. PHP is all over the internet, and so it's, to me, it was like he's a relatively famous person, and he opened up his presentation by saying, "I really hate programming," and I think it was a revelation for me, because it's the frustration. You just want to get to where you want to be and have a solution, and so you create this. You end up on this tangent of creating this entire system for doing just that. So he invested a significant part of his career developing that, and then he let it go. And I thought that was it was a very human approach to the whole topic.
Yeah, I came to that conclusion a couple of weeks ago. I did decide, like, I'm a horrible programmer and I hate it.
No, but good programmers are lazy because they want to automate things.
Yeah. They don't have OCD, though. There's no into it. And just to change things up a little bit, I'll have to ask Bill, what do you consider is probably the low point of LUGOD? The most trying, I don't know.
Oh, in the early days, there were some
I got kicked off the list.
personality conflicts and clashes, which are fortunately long gone. Everyone's kind of
I
matured.
think that
since
actually
then.
helped drive the group somewhat. Sometimes drama helps pull people in. As much as people are repulsed by it. We had a lot of drama in the beginning.
Yeah.
So there are people that would get kicked off the list, but that's in the past.
Guaranteed drama.
But I have to say, it was like, there were a lot of passionate people. I think it just passion coming together. And
One of our early meetings where a company asked if they could come speak. We said, "Oh wow, sure, that sounds great. Come talk about your product." And their talk was literally like 15 minutes. And I'm looking at them, I gotta think of a question. Let me think of a question. And it was over. It was kind of a waste of time for everyone. But yeah, typically we tell people, try to fill out the time and have an interesting topic and keep it relatively technical. It doesn't have to be mind numbing, but keep the technical people interested. So.
Yeah. How long is each meeting usually?
They're 2 hours, and we usually begin with introductions and some club business, and then the rest of it, like an hour and a half or so, is the presentation and Q&A.
And attendance overall has been pretty steady over the years?
No. Anywhere between...
I call it when LUGOD started, it was Geeks and the Girlfriends. And I don't, well, anyway, we had...
And some of us actually had girlfriends.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've seen...
That's not like, I don't know, what do you call it? I did put my foot in my mouth.
Yes, that's what you did.
Maybe I did. Well, but yeah, I don't know. Now it seems like we have like just sort of some of our meetings are like sort of small, I guess. It's
Yeah,
like,
there was a time back in the heyday when we'd have consistently about 40 people at a meeting, and consistently about 5 to 10 of them were first-time people coming from various parts. We had people coming out from Lincoln every single meeting, and this is back when we met twice a month, even with our general presentations. And but it's in the 12 to 20. Sometimes it dips, sometimes it's a little bigger. The big party ones where we give away prizes and have free food, those ones usually have more, and we spend more time advertising those and so forth.
3D printing one drew quite a
3D
crowd.
printing one drew a crowd. Our statistics talk brought everyone from the statistics department at UC Davis.
oh yeah,
Never seen them before. They all came. They descended in, crowded this tiny room we were in that day.
Hey, Bill.
And then never came back. They were just interested in that one topic.
And we have our R speaker coming back. Oh, another R presentation in February.
Yes.
Another plug for upcoming.
Parallel R.
Yeah. That one should be really cool.
Yeah,
It's not pirate
Oh,
talk.
did you really? Okay, yeah. So we have a professor from UC.
If I can interject,
sorry.
one of my favorite presentations was the one with the basically using the Microsoft Kinect from the Xbox 360.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
To
Yeah.
digitize an environment. So basically, we had our attendants in the meeting up on the screen and being able to rotate around them in 3D and see
3D model.
3D model live of everyone in the room. It was pretty awesome. That was
And the Myth TV one was really good.
Yeah, we've had some ones with DVRs where people were tearing apart hardware and showing you all the different things you can do with them. So
Cool. All right. So I suppose my next question would be, I don't know. Let me see.
What language do we program in?
What
languages?
I don't want to get too
technical.
I'm trying to avoid getting too
Okay.
technical around, but I'm just curious, like maybe just talking about going back to open source sort of thing. I mean, what are maybe some of your heroes of open source or people who inspire you in open source?
well, Ned Storvalds, I think, is he can have a temper, it seems like, as well, but he has basically dedicated his life to doing this, and has been lucky enough to get a career where this is what he does as well. But yeah, to sit down and kind of throw it out there and start this ball rolling, it was kind of the first really big open source project that a lot of people had ever heard of, and the momentum really expanded from them. Then we had companies just open sourcing their products left and right after that. So.
Yeah. Do all of you, are you kind of programmers at heart, or are you like mainly do this in your jobs?
We for here or the entire club?
Just asking kind of you as indicative of the club. So.
I went back to grad school because of LUGOD
Okay.
Right
and
on.
computer science.
Right on. Good.
Yeah, I'm in the weird field of bioinformatics, which is computational biology. It's biology, it's a lot of computation, it's information science all mixed together. And that really has been driven by open source. And as an inspirational development, the National Institute of Health and National Science Foundation are putting into their grant announcements requirements that you open source the code that you develop and open access the data. And it's become a standard. And this did not exist before the open source movement. And we have the open science movement now, the freedom to share the articles. So what is funded by the public and the results of very expensive and long-term experimentation becomes part of the public trust. And I think it's helping science. It certainly helps not to constantly have to reinvent the wheel and recode and reprogram, and it's a great development.
Yeah, I suppose maybe to phrase that question a little bit better is I'm just curious, if you're just looking at the overall makeup of the club, because you are the Linux users group of Davis, but do you feel like sometimes you're the Linux programmers group of Davis? Or, I mean, you just kind of explain kind of overall as far as people that are attending the group, people that you were kind of looking to I mean, I'm sure you like to promote the group and get more people coming in. I mean, kind of like, overall, I mean, maybe just kind of describe some overall personalities and skill sets that people are coming in. Are you coming in, like, are people coming into the group just like, I have a huge beard and I program 24/7.
We have those people, but we have them in.
People that are like users of like, I believe in open source. I don't have a lot of money and I just want to see what this is about.
Yeah, we get a mix. I'm guessing that probably at least a half of the regular attendants are people who know how to program, and then the other half not very well or not at all. That's not what they're really there for. Because we don't focus 100% on programming based talks. We have we run the gamut. I mean, because Linux is a desktop environment, it's a mobile environment, it's a server environment. There's all sorts of different things you can do with it. So, I've done a talk on here's educational software for Linux for your kids or for your elementary school, and it has nothing. That should draw the parents and the teachers who want to use free software, basically, not necessarily the programmers. Obviously, we would benefit from programmers being there because they might kind of pick up the ball in some places and make new software, but that wasn't really the goal of that kind of a talk. So.
And there is a networking aspect too, not just for the high tech, but for education, for parents wanting to set up systems for their kids, whether it's the hardware, the operating system, or particular pieces of software. So I think that's really important.
We've had a lot of high school age kids come, and And the parents sit next to him, and I'm just a chauffeur. I'm not here for the meeting. I'm just standing. So that's always cool. So.
That's good. So I'm just curious if, I mean, let's just talk more about your 15-year anniversary. I mean, it is coming up, so I'm sure you've been planning this for the last 5 or 10 years.
No. If only I had the time. Yeah. No, it's going to be pretty typical. We're going to have a bunch of pizza. Village Bakery's offered to give us a discount on the pizza. Mm-hmm. We're going to have some books and ebooks to give away that O'Reilly Media has donated to us. Eric over here is going to give us a cake. And we got a couple other little goodies to give out. But basically it's just going to be a meet and greet, and then sit down and watch the presentation on Gloucester FS, which I've never really learned anything about, so this is going to be all news to me.
It's going to be really cool.
And I had no idea Brian was involved in it at all, so small world.
All right, well, we're getting close to kind of wrapping up, so I just want to give you all the opportunity to kind of, if there's something you want to jump in, you've been wanting to say. John, I know you've got...
So going back to your previous question about heroes, Richard Stallman, also along with Linus, was one of the originators of the Free Software Foundation. It's just remarkable to me that in the 80s he sent out the email in the news group of, hey, I'm going to write all this software and I'm just going to give it away for free. And here we are, 30 years later.
Yeah, you definitely.
I think there's an important part to it because he created what's called the GPL license, and so you can still sell the software. But when you sell or you give it to the next person, you have to allow them the same privilege, and it allows the software to propagate.
So, all right. Yeah, I know, like, definitely, I'd like to just recommend that everybody do go check out LUGOD. I know we sat here and definitely probably threw out a lot of technical terms. We didn't want to get too technical with the whole thing. But even if you're interested in technical things, it takes a little while to learn. Like I said, I started in 96 or 97, but as well, when I started, I never even had a computer before that. So I've just learned, people think I'm really technical now, but I've learned it all on my own, and just out of being stubborn. So, I mean, and definitely there's a lot of value, there's a lot of people that are interested, and it's very open, so we... I encourage it, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to come out here. So, and definitely we'll check out your 15th anniversary. Sounds fun. Free pizza is always good. So, so thank you for watching in the studio with the Linux Users Group of Davis, and have a good evening.